is joining us on Facebook Live. It's Life on the Level. I've got a fabulous presentation for you today, all about living with a balance disorder and anxiety, which does affect most of us. You're encouraged on Facebook, if you want to send questions in during the presentation, that'll be fabulous. And there will be a question and answer session at the end of today. Speaker today, who is looking nervous, surely not, Carla Patel. Very, very experienced, 24 years experience, psychotherapist, dealing with many, many conditions of the mind. What she's going to talk about today is hopefully going to practically help all of us on some simple techniques to try and dampen down the anxiety and the fears. And I'm going to quickly shut up now and hand over to Carla. So welcome to Carla Patel. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a real privilege to be here. I've been told I've got this and this to work because I don't stand still, so I'm sorry. And I'm aware you've got balance disorders, and that doesn't help much if the person's moving. I've worked with Rupal's my friend, and I saw all the things that Rupal was going through over the last kind of two years ago when things got really bad for her. So I'm very aware of the anxiety and the way that it operates. And you know, as a therapist, one of the things I'm aware of is that we all kind of suffer anxiety and depression if something happens to us, or something might just kind of trigger it, because you know, life is like that, and our bodies and our minds are not separate. Unfortunately, because of your condition, your anxiety is going to come because of that condition. And the thing is, what I'm going to say applies to anyone, regardless of whether they've got a balanced condition or not. And hopefully you'll get some practical ways of trying to manage things. Now, one of the things I say to a lot of my clients who come to me is there is usually a very, very, very high level of anxiety, because it's a shock about, well, why am I like this? Because I've been healthy so far. And I guess that's the same thing that's happened to you. And also, there's also this whole thing about you've experienced a trauma because your body is not functioning how it used to function. So you're then having to learn to live in this new place with this thing that's suddenly come into your life. And I guess it's about kind of going, well, your life hasn't ended, you're still here, and it's about going, I've got to learn to be in the world in a different way, because the world necessarily isn't going to understand you, because like you say in the pub, Simon, that people were offensive to the extreme that they hurt you. They were kicking you, and it's just like, hang on a second. That's just ridiculous. What's happened to our society if we can't just go, actually, there may be an issue here, that this person's struggling with something, let's help them. You wouldn't do that to anyone, so what's going on, you know? And there's judgments going on, and I guess part of it, my work, is I help people to kind of shut the voice up, the trickster in ourselves that can be sitting in as judge, jury and executioner. And I just kind of suggest kind of really simple things to help with anxiety, because our anxiety can skyrocket because there's been a little trigger. And I guess if you're struggling with getting up in the morning and thinking, is my body going to let me down? Yeah, there's already something that's kind of in place there. So one of the things I say to people is change the way that you think. Yeah, and that's one way of getting rid of the trickster in our heads. And I've experienced high rates of anxiety. I've struggled with depression and all sorts of things. So part of it's like, I'm not just talking as someone who works with people. I'm also talking as a human being who's experienced something. And one of the things that I learned quite recently was this, and I listened to loads of YouTube people who are telling you how to look after yourself in a different way. And one of the things that I've come across is There's a guy called Michael Beckwith. He's a preacher, but I like what he says because it makes sense, because as human beings we need nurture of different things. And he says worry has no transformational value. And I'm like, yeah, when have I ever managed to do something when I'm worried sick about it? Absolutely nothing. It always takes energy away from us. So I thought, okay, how do we work this in the therapy room with someone who's extremely worried, when their anxiety is sky high, they are worried sick, yeah? So much so that they might not be able to eat, they may not be able to look after themselves. And I'm aware that you'd be experiencing that if you've suddenly gone, hang on a second, I don't know what I can eat. Simon's just given us examples of things having cut out of his life. That's a big shock to the system. So it's about kind of finding different ways. And one of the things that I've kind of said this, and I say, use this as an experiment to kind of have a handle on the bit inside of us that stops us from doing things or gives us a hard time. And one of the things I say to people is, can you do this experiment? Now I'd like you to try this, and don't do it for 1 week, don't do it for 1 day, just keep doing it and see what happens. And it's really simple. The first thing you do when you're conscious is not think about your balance condition, but to think of life as a glorious adventure. Because what you've then done is you've said to your body, I'm all right. The balance condition does not then have a handle on you, and the trickster in your mind does not have a handle on you that says you can't do things. I know that sounds it sounds a bit optimistic, but my supervisor would say, you're always optimistic. But I think part of it is I tried it. I tried saying, it's a glorious adventure. Every morning, just before I open my eyes, and I know I'm conscious, I go, it's a glorious adventure. And usually the day turns out to be a glorious adventure. That's one way of being able to handle our anxiety. Because anxiety can actually eat us up, so much so that our body starts to do things that are really, really painful. And that trickster is in us. And the trickster is also about the messages that society's given us. So it's about challenging that. Because that's where the jury comes in, that's where the executioner comes in, that's where the judge is. And often it's ourselves that gives us the hardest time. Yeah? So it's about challenging that bit of us to say, no, I'm not going to go there, because if I go there, that's only going to be a spiral that's going to cause me more pain. So if you can handle that bit, you can go, I'm not going to allow this to take charge and give me a hard time, because we're the best people at beating ourselves up. We might not be beaten up by other people, but we do it worse. Yeah? We always know which buttons to press to make us feel bad. So I'm saying, right, okay, let's challenge that bit, because if we can challenge that bit of us, we then have a handle on the anxiety, panic attacks, and creating a world for yourself which is going to enable you. And there are other things as well. I know Simon talked about mindfulness. Mindfulness is a brilliant way of doing things, but that it comes from meditation. It comes from, all the, and this is the RE teacher in me coming out, all the major religions and also, spiritual ways of operating say, it's really important to do meditation. And the thing that it does is it quietens the mind, the trickster that's always chatting, and it's about settling it so that you can breathe. If you can breathe, you will be able to manage the anxiety. And meditation is a really good way of building that breathing muscle up. So often I say to people, right, okay, what are you doing? What are you doing to help you to breathe properly? And it isn't just about meditation, but also things like walking. Walking's a brilliant way of being able to manage your body, to manage the breathing, because when we breathe, we take, and I know with anxiety, the breath is up here, and very often people don't know how to breathe down to their diaphragm. So I'll say to them, don't try to take a breath in when you can't breathe. Push the breath out completely. So if your anxiety is really high, the chances are your breath is up in the top of your chest and not getting down to your diaphragm. So your bloodstream hasn't got enough oxygen going around to all the bits of your brain. Yeah, and was it you, Kevin, or Simon? You said something about your brain being absolutely shattered after spending 2 hours at work. The thing is, our brain does use up a lot of energy. Our body doesn't use as much. Think about when you were ever doing exams or something that you really had to concentrate on. Sometimes we get tired because our brain is having to work so fast. And so sometimes it's really important to be able to say, actually, my brain is not getting enough oxygen because my breath is not, so my brain's not working properly. So it's about trying to go, okay, what can I do to reduce the anxiety? And one simple way is to push your breath out, not to try to take a breath in, because if you're breathing up here, that's only where the breath will go. But if you push your breath out and push it out and push it out and push it out until there's nothing left, your body automatically takes a deep breath down to your diaphragm. And that's a really easy one where you can use it anywhere. So if your balance condition is causing you to feel like you can't get a handle on the anxiety, just push your breath out. That doesn't mean that you have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything other than push your breath out. And what it will do is automatically you'll take a deep breath, and it will counter the anxiety. It'll also counter a panic attack if it's about to start. And those things meditation helps you with, because the breathing is what meditation is about. It's not about the trickster in our minds. It's learning to shut that up. And with meditation, you've also got to do it on a regular basis in order to help you to breathe properly. And the more your body's breathing completely down to your diaphragm, the easier it is to shut the trickster up in your head. So, there are other things that you can do also, and one of them I find is a really good one with people if they're very anxious and feel like they don't have they can't get to the breathing or whatever, is actually doing a grounding exercise. And the grounding exercise is literally kind of sitting down and imagining there are roots going into the ground, so that you can almost do the same thing that trees do, which is they recycle. They recycle anything that's toxic in them and they put it into the ground. And actually, that's a really good exercise to help us to feel like if you're picking up stuff from society that says, like, for example, you're not disabled enough, yeah, you don't need to take that message on, because your body will take that bit of information and your brain will play games with you. But if you recycle it and go, actually, that's not mine, that belongs to society, you are then keeping your kind of body clear of those kind of messages, because our body holds messages. So it's about kind of undoing all of that, so that it's not sticking in your head and then you're giving yourself a hard time about it. The other things that I say to people is it's really important to get out in the fresh air. I know it's windy, and I guess, if you've got a balance condition, the wind doesn't help if it's getting into your ears, because it's going to do something else. And my granny, she came from India, and she would say, make sure you wear a hat. And it's like, Gran, it's only a little bit of wind. And she's like, no, wear a hat, it's really important. And now I understand it, that actually it's because of our ears, they are affected by anything to do with wind. Yeah. So if you've got a balance condition, I don't know if your specialists have said, but always keep your ears covered. And that's and I thought it was an old wives' tale, but as I've got older, it's like, maybe my gran did know a few things, So, and this kind of wind will affect us even more. And I've worked in schools, and the kids used to be doolally and really wappy when it was windy. And so it's like there is evidence to suggest that the wind affects us in lots of different ways, and if you've got a balance condition, it's going to affect you even more. Yeah. So that's just, even if it's like warm, always wear something that covers your ears. Okay, I think I've dried up now, so I'm going to put it to you about any questions so that I can help, hopefully.
Any questions? Come on. Here we go. Nicola.
I find myself always biting down a lot, doing it, and I don't even realise I'm doing it until I stop myself in my tracks. And it's like that constant anxiety is obviously always there, and there's that panic mode, and I'm always, I have to tell myself, stop doing that, and I'll stop, and then I'm doing it again before I even realise what I'm doing. Okay,
so there's this kind of thing that's
constant. It's
constant. Okay.
Biting down.
And so you're also kind of biting on your jaw. Is that right?
No, I just on the, your teeth, clenching your teeth. I find myself doing that a lot
because of your anxiety.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
it's like I suppose it's like waiting. It's in the back of my mind, waiting all the time, and it just creates that, like say, a heightened.
I guess you don't even know you're doing it half the time.
No, I don't until you get the
tension headaches.
Here
yeah. Okay. Have you done any kind of mindfulness or any meditation?
I've got a CD that I played that helps relax, and I found when I put it on, it sends me to sleep. But obviously, I can't be playing that at work and when I'm doing things. I need to somehow set myself a trigger up to stop myself from doing that, try and break that cycle.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the things that I would suggest to you is if you're, how long's this CD?
It's a 20-minute
CD.
Okay.
On YouTube you can find 5-minute kind of meditations. I use one called Positive 5 Minutes Meditation by Jason Stevenson, and it literally is just kind of talks you through just breathing properly. Yeah, and that might be enough to help you. And you may also be able to, once you've kind of got into the meditation, you can then kind of condense it within a minute. You'll be able to do it for yourself, but it then gives you some space. But the pushing the breath out is a really good way to just go, okay, nobody can see this is invisible, whereas meditation, you've got to take some time out. You can do it for yourself, where you just push the breath out, and by doing that, you're taking a breath, and that will then ease the anxiety, will ease the overthinking. And if you're already picking up that it's your mind playing tricks on you, you then manage it, because it's not something that anyone else can see, only you would know. So would that help you? There's the meditation, and also the pushing the breath out.
Breathing. When as you were saying, I'm sitting in, I'm going.
And has it helped?
We all were, weren't we?
Has it helped?
Yeah, because you start linking. You say the breathing with the biting down. You start to connect that. It's to stop doing that. It's to stop. You tell your brain to stop the biting. Because I'm doing it a lot all the time, so it's being able to break that cycle. And if I link that, like say, with the breathing, then hopefully that will trigger to stop me from doing that, without knowing I'm doing it consciously.
Okay.
Brilliant. Other questions? Anyone got a question? Yep. Bear with me, this is a long walk, so I'll keep waffling for a moment. If I fall over, somebody pick me up. It's all right. I'm coming round to... Who am I coming round to? Trina.
Hi.
Hi.
My specialist has recommended CBT as part of my treatment plan.
Yeah.
The specialist is in a different area to where I live. So I applied through the GP for CBT, filled in the questionnaires that they give you, and they're saying I don't meet the criteria for that because I think I'm probably not quite suicidal, probably, in reality. So have you got any suggestions about how I can manage that? Because I don't know how to articulate. I can see the need for it in terms of the conditions, but I don't know how to articulate that to people that don't understand the conditions.
Okay, so, you know, more often than not, with the NHS, you'll probably only get so many sessions.
Yeah.
And the reason CBT is offered, the reason it's because that's what the government have said is the most effective. It's not. All it is you can prove that it's doing something. Yeah. I'm very person-centred. I'm a person-centred therapist, and I can't say you'll be better in 6 weeks' time, but I can certainly give you techniques, I can give you strategies to help you. But with CBT, it's literally just about the strategies, and you've got to go away and do them. Yeah. But it's not dealing with the underlying issues. So you'll also have a wait, whereas, you know, private practitioners are out there, which you may be able to kind of work with, and it's not about kind of putting up with what you've initially kind of found. It's about finding the right person who's going to work with you in a way that's going to help you to be able to work through what you're working through, because often the chemistry has to be right, the relationship has to be right, the person has to be willing to understand and not use you to get to know about your condition. Yeah. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Yep.
Yes, going back to your thing you said about the wind and covering your ears up. Paul and I are here not really with the usual balance problems. Paul had a brain tumour, and I thought it might be worth coming along. Obviously, with a brain tumour, fatigue is a big part of things. And through this winter, Paul hasn't been walking as well as he was last summer.
Yeah.
Now, this is sort of the first full year after his treatment. And I wondered if anyone else who had balance problems found that the winter caused more problems, or perhaps...
Yeah, lots of nods in the audience. Actually, here we go. Let's have a quick word with John. Your experience.
Hell yeah. Winter's terrible. It's dark, so you can't see when you're falling over. It's windy, so it keeps blowing you over. The floor's cold, so even if I wear the shoes that mean that I can feel the floor, I then can't feel my feet because they get cold. So yeah, winter's an absolute nightmare.
That's interesting, because I've just been so worried.
Hang on. Whoa. I've only got one microphone. Whoa. Go on, Jane.
I mean, Paul, who's got the condition, he is just so laid back. He has no anxiety. no, nothing. It's me that's got all this.
Okay, Sarah.
What's the secret to not having any anxiety?
I just don't worry. It's good. I've seen other people in worse states than me. And as far as I am concerned, I'm quite happy with my condition, whatever. So I've never really worried about it. It's always been que sera.
Paul, I have a question for you. What's the secret to happiness? Because
this woman here.
So
we set this up because it's Valentine's Day.
I didn't realise that.
But can I just ask a question? And because Jane makes a really good point, is that he's the person with the condition,
absolutely,
but she's his partner, and I think there's a lot of people in the room that have partners that don't quite know what to do. They worry. I mean, my husband Richard, right in the front, hadn't got a clue what to do, and he'd worry all the time. Is there advice for partners, for people who are in that situation? Because it's equally, I think, difficult for them.
Yes,
absolutely.
I'm afraid the red wine is It's flowing far too quickly. And of course, if I have a drink, Paul has a drink, not as much as me, but is that a good thing in his condition? Go on.
I don't know about Paul's condition, but red wine in moderation is fine, but it's not something that we would, any of us would encourage too much of. But Jane, you're probably the person who worries because Paul doesn't. Paul, yeah? Yes. Yeah? So part of it is like, we can use the same things even if you're the partner. It's about kind of using things to reduce anxiety, and some of them are things like getting some fresh air, even if it's just opening a window.
Well, we walk every day.
Brilliant. Okay.
We used to walk and cycle, an awful lot. We walk every day. Before he was ill, last summer we were walking for an hour before the sort of he started to lean to one side, which was obviously fatigue. Through the winter, we've only been able to walk about 30 minutes.
Okay, and walking's a really good one for reducing anxiety because of the fact that you're getting energy, you're getting exercise. I know it might be difficult for some people, but also it's getting you out of the four walls, because when we're stuck inside, our anxiety and our mind is playing all sorts of tricks on us about what we can and cannot do. So it's really about kind of challenging that bit and going, actually, I'm going to go for a walk. And a walk does not mean going out of the house and walking for miles on end. It could be just stepping outside of the house and getting some fresh air, looking at the flowers, looking at what the seasons are doing, because it does something within our brain chemistry. Because a lot of the time what happens with anxiety is we have this thing called the amygdala, and it's in the middle of our heads. And when it's a normal size, it's the size of an almond. But when you have anxiety, it becomes bigger. And if it's become bigger, what's going on is the rest of your brain is being squashed, and therefore you don't remember things, you can't concentrate. Things just kind of, you literally read something and you cannot remember what you've read. That's because the amygdala's got big. And the amygdala is the bit that's responsible for the fight or flight system. So if you are constantly anxious, that system is it's working overtime. And if it's working overtime, your brain cannot function properly because you've got something else that's going on, which is physically happening. And it's about kind of trying to do something that's trying to stop that from getting any bigger. It's about reducing it back to the size of an almond. And there are some really simple techniques. One of them is smiling. If you smile, even a false smile, and when I've got people who are really, really anxious, I'll say, smile. And I'm like, go around like this. If you can't smile properly, just do that. Because there's something in our bodies where that muscle movement upwards starts to work inside, and we get a chemical hit that is the same as chocolate. So I know you've had to give up chocolate, smile and you'll get the same hit. But it's about and those are the things, and they're really simple, they cost us nothing. Smiling is a really good one, and often people will come back to me and they're like, you told me to smile on the way to work, so I've been doing this for a while, and I actually feel better now, and I can do something differently. And when we smile, what happens is our body's doing something. We're creating the chemicals within our body that counteract the anxiety chemicals. And that's what anxiety is. Basically, we are a walking chemistry set. Yeah? So our body's doing all sorts of things all the time, and it's just wonderful if we could kind of understand what all of that was. But we don't. But we can use it to our benefit. So smiling's a good one. Getting out and just getting some air is a good one. Make sure if it's windy like this that you cover your ears. There's other things as well in terms of just, not watching thrillers. Yeah? Don't watch anything. If you're susceptible to anxiety, do not watch something that's going to create your anxiety levels to go flying through the roof, because your body will think there's a tiger behind me. Yeah? So you're kind of, I don't know whether I stay or whether I go. So don't watch anything that's going to cause that chemical reaction within your body. The other thing also is what to laugh. And sometimes when people's anxiety levels are so high, they don't know how to laugh anymore. They've lost that ability. Nothing seems to get in, and they're caught up in this thing within themselves, which stops them from being able to function properly. And then friends will go, okay, what's wrong with you? And friends and family can't see us when we're in really, really difficult places. That is really hard for them, because they're wanting the person that you were before back. Yeah, they're grieving for that bit of you. You may be grieving for that bit of you, but it's also about kind of going, okay, I can do things which counteract the trickster within me, which is kind of trying to pull me down. Yeah, because that's within us. That's within our kind of authority. We can say, actually, I'm not going to do that to myself. And self-sabotage it can be very, 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 very kind of elusive. We may not know we're doing it, but we can do it in lots of different ways. So it's about kind of being able to go, actually, I see you. I'm not going to let you get away with what you've been doing. Anxiety is the same thing. You go, I'm not going to let you get away with it. I see you. I'm going to do something that's going to help me. Yeah? And that's a really difficult one to actually challenge ourselves about, because we might think, oh, I'm a relatively okay person, but it's the bit that's not relatively okay that's doing the kind of tricking.
Carla, that was a very thorough answer. If I can just say, I thoroughly endorse the red wine. For anyone. But I'm not a doctor. Also, just incidentally, I'm many years sufferer. Winter's a hell for me. I think it's to do with the way your body shuts down blood circulation, and definitely I'm affected by poor blood circulation in my head, so that's why I've got to go and live in Tenerife. Now the good news, we've got bonus time.
Right.
Bonus time, and Carla, I think, is going to kindly talk us through a few techniques that we can all try here. And there will be time again for a few other questions at the end. So over to you again, Carla. Thank you.
Right. What I'd like, I can see there are lots of people who are not smiling. There's your first one. Yeah, smile, because it works immediately. Yeah. The other thing I'd like you to do is, if you can, shut your eyes. If you can't, keep your eyes open. But what I'd like you to do is, I'd like us to do a little bit of a breathing exercise. Yeah? If you can, shut your eyes. If you can't, don't. And I'd like you to sit so that nothing is crossed. No arms crossed, no legs crossed. And make sure that you're sitting straight, because one of the things is that our bodies will hold how we, if we're not holding them kind of straight, that will have an impact on us, and it stops the breathing. So what I'd like you to do is, I'm going to do the grounding exercise with us so that you can experience something, and hopefully we can share the ideas. All right. So imagine that you are growing roots from the bottom of your feet. And I'd like you to take a deep breath, or push one out, and then take a breath in. And then do it again, push the breath out, take another one in. And one more time, if you can push that breath out, and take another one in. Okay. And then just breathe normally, whatever feels right for you. And just imagine there are roots going from your feet into the ground. The roots going deeper and deeper into the ground. Going deeper into the ground. You're breathing easily. you to imagine that you're giving the earth anything that, messages, anything that fear, anything that's anxious, into the ground, for the earth to recycle. Just give it to the earth, because she'll recycle anything. Keep breathing, nice, smooth breaths, in and out. If you can, smile. The earth will recycle any messages that you have, any anxiety, and she won't leave it lying around. When you're ready, I'd like you to imagine those roots coming back up into your feet. And the roots are coming back up. And the roots are back into your feet, and when you're ready, open your eyes. What I'd like you to do is smile as well. Okay. What did that feel like?
Tingly feet.
Tingly feet. Okay.
It was good.
It was good because
I've done yoga for years and years, and it was, I can sort of get myself into exercises, stuff like that.
And what did you notice with your breathing?
Well, I always breathe very deeply anyway.
Mm-hmm. Someone who doesn't do the deep breathing, what was that like?
Calm.
Sorry, calmer. It was calm. Okay. That was a brief grounding and a meditation at the same time. Yeah. And part of it's like meditation does kind of calm us down, because what we're not doing is concentrating on what's going on in our heads. And when we concentrate on what's going on in our heads, the thing is, our body will respond to that. So our breath, it gets taken away, and that's where the anxiety then comes in. And this bit then kind of does its thing, which then is very disturbing because it gets worse and worse. Whereas if we go into our body, we've done something different. We've kind of not, we've said, I give myself authority, my body authority to look after me. And our body knows things because we are part of the earth. Yeah. And one of the things I say to people is, when your anxiety is really, really awful, one of the things that you can do is say, I'm made of stardust. And that then kind of does something for us, because it's like we have the ability to do what the earth does. We have the ability to do what the universe does. And it's forever expanding. Yeah. So we use that within ourselves, and then we're giving ourselves permission to not get stuck in whatever we're anxious about. Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah.
Very, very good, Carla. Have we got time for one more?
One more technique.
One more, please.
Okay. Been told to wait. Okay. Okay. Just trying to think. Okay. What I'd like you to do is, I'd like you, and I'm just aware with your balance condition, there may be things that you struggle with around what your particular condition is, yeah? And it's about kind of saying something different to yourself. So, Rupal,
Yep.
I'm going to put you on the spot. What's the thing that you struggle with, which is going on in here around your condition?
Just not being able to do things like I used to.
Okay, all right. So that's an old part of you going, I could do that. Yeah, I could do that. Now, if you're there, you're not here.
Yeah.
You're not in the moment. So part of it's like saying, actually, I couldn't. It's not about kind of going, oh, I wish I could do that. It's about going, actually, I'm here and I'm now, and how can I be here and now rather than there and then? Because when we're there and then, there's a conflict. There's a conflict between being here and what's going on now, and there, which was then. So it's about kind of taking that breath, push the breath out, and ground just become aware of being in the here and now. And then what that does is it stops you from giving yourself a hard time about the things you couldn't do, because you may have built some superpowers that allow you to do other things. Yeah. For example, Simon, I'm sorry I'm picking on you, but Simon's kind of changed his way of being in the world by doing something different, eating different things and being aware of what he's eating, being mindful about all the things that you're putting into your body because you're aware. Yeah.
Thank you very, very much indeed, Gala. Before we sort of let you go, it'd be just interesting to know what you all do to deal with anxiety. Are there things that, how you deal with the anxiety and the stress, and techniques that perhaps you've picked up that you can share with the group? So somebody said to me, I'll start off, just give you a chance to think about it, but somebody said to me, and it kind of goes on, not going back into the past, but this one involves going back into the past in some respects. Somebody said to me that, I find it, one of my biggest challenges is crossing big roads, and on the way to work I really struggle with the main road. It's traffic on, coming from different angles, and I can't cross these big roads without using a stick, and the fear and the anxiety, the stress levels are insane at times, and I think I'm not going to do this, and I've already thought about all these things that I can't do, and then a friend said, well, actually, go back to when you were normal, in inverted commas, and remember what it felt like then, and just go across that road like you used to. So instead of thinking about the here and now in that sense, it was about what did it feel like to cross that road when you were okay, when it was normal. And I've tried this, and it's a lot better. I really would suggest people try it, because it has helped. I can't say it's fixed it, but it's helped me. Remembering what it felt like. It's that feeling of being normal in inverted commas for me that has made a massive difference. So are there other things that people can share?
Okay. More often than not, people are triggered by feelings. So if you can get into a place where it's like, I feel capable of crossing that road even though it's a busy road, you've then hooked into a body memory. So your body will remember memories where it makes you more powerful than what you're thinking is. So that's a brilliant way of being able to tackle something.
Is there anyone else that's got ways of tackling stress and anxiety? Hang on a second, just thank you. Caroline.
Hi, I had an attack of vertigo on a train
and I have to go to London for work, so getting on the train became a bit of an issue for me. So I started to constantly just take myself out of the moment and concentrate on my phone, and my CBT person said to me that I needed to start being more present in the situation on the train, to start enjoying the train. So I challenged that, and I put my device away, and sometimes I get my headphones away and I start to, I suppose it's mindfulness, looking out the window and appreciating what's going on around me so that I can start to enjoy that journey again. And I don't fear so much now, rather than completely shutting down and panicking and just going on the phone playing games because I'm taking myself out of that moment. That's not a good thing to do, but enjoying what's around you is much better.
Absolutely. And the thing is, our phones play a part in how we are, because unfortunately there's a lot of light, and at the end of the day, anything that if we're listening to music too loud, yeah, that's going to affect our hearing. But what we've not been told is these phones are not just about the light, they're also about whatever is being emitted by them. And we've got to be mindful that if we've all got a phone, yeah, where are we carrying them? If we're carrying them near our bodies, which is an organic thing, it's going to get affected. So I think we've had so much kind of information overload that our bodies are getting overworked on just ordinary levels, so our anxiety levels are going to go up.
Any more suggestions, any other coping strategies that people have that you can share with us? Yeah, oh, okay. Now he tells me. Sorry. Simon, yeah, you're just making me exercise, aren't you, Simon? Go on.
Yeah, I think when I replied to Kevin's email this morning, anxiety kicked in thinking, oh, what have I just done? I've just said I'm going to stand up in front of a room of strangers. And all of a sudden it was like, what if, where can I fall on the floor? What if I fall on the floor? And I thought, no, what if I don't? What if I actually get something out of it? What if I actually meet new people? And so I think that there's two sides to the what if. There's the what if it goes wrong, but there's the side of what if it doesn't? What if actually I only move forward a centimetre, but I've gone forward a centimetre. So yeah, I think for me it's that double side of the what if.
Thank you very much indeed.
That is wonderful. One technique I've developed, and I don't know what the technical term is for it, I just don't give a damn.
Absolutely.
I used to worry about what everybody thought about, was I going to fall over, be sick, look stupid. Maybe it's age. I think it's a lot of years' experience with many years. I don't give a damn. And I encourage everyone to try that. Because it really gives you a lot of freedom where you just don't give a damn. So it's my advice. Carla, it's been a wonderful presentation. The good news is Carla has agreed today to help contribute to a section on our website where we're going to talk a lot more about dealing with anxiety. So I don't think this is the last we've seen of Carla. And I'm sure she'll be talking to us in the future. But Carla, thank you very much. Thank you.